Hey everyone, and welcome back for another yoga class. I'm so excited that you've decided to join me. Today's class is geared towards beginners. We're going to do a couple of different fundamentals within this flow. So what we're going to do is we're going to start in seated pose. And what I want you to do is grab a pillow or a bolster or a blanket, anything that you can stick underneath your sit bones, and just prop your hips up a little bit. And the reason why we do this is we really want the pelvis to stay neutral. So when we don't have the hip flexibility, the pelvis will tip forwards or backwards, and oftentimes our knees will actually be higher than our hips. So what we want to do is have our hips higher than our knees. So come into your seated pose and we will get started. So something I want to touch on before we dive into the practice is that yoga is not just the physical component or asana. There's actually 8 limbs of yoga. We're not going to go into all of those today, but one thing that I do want to mention is that the breath is really, really important. So yoga actually means to yoke, and so what we want to do in our yoga practice is yoke breath and movement. So you're going to hear me cue inhale, lengthen, exhale, fold, inhale, cow pose, exhale, cat pose. And what those breath cues are is just to remind you to take deep inhales in and out of your body. And so in order to center ourselves before we start the practice and just to get the breath flowing, is we're actually going to do 10 breaths together. So what I want you to do is close your eyes, sit up nice and tall, reach the crown of your head up towards the ceiling just a little bit more, and then begin breathing in and out through your nose. And as you breathe in through your nose, think about filling the belly, filling the lungs, getting nice and full of air. And then as you exhale, I want you to breathe it all out. So every single little bit of oxygen I want to leave your body. Inhale deeply, fill the chest, fill the belly. Exhale, let it all out. Inhale, fill the chest, fill the belly. Exhale, let all your air out. Inhale deeply. Exhale out. Inhale. Exhale. 5 more rounds just like that on your own. Final breath all together. So inhale deeply. Exhale, let it out. Really good. Blinking your eyes open. Now inhale, reach your arms up towards the ceiling. We're going to interlace all of our fingers except our pointer fingers. Reach those long up towards the ceiling. Take an inhale into your belly. And then as you exhale, tip over towards the left. So just tip a little bit. We're feeling sensation through the right side of the body. Continuing those long, deep inhales and exhales. And then inhale back to center. And exhale over towards the right. Inhale back to center. And then exhale, releasing down. Really good. We're going to release the pillow from our sit bones or whatever you're sitting on, put it back where you found it, and come into all fours. So as you come onto all fours, this will be tabletop position. So you want to imagine that you're like a table. So a couple key things of this pose are that your wrists are underneath your shoulders, your knees are underneath your hips, and that your back is nice and flat here. So you can actually just put a hand on your back and just kind of feel what's happening. So you want to imagine like you had a cup of water or a beer on your back, and you want to keep it nice and stable in this pose. So what we're going to start with here is just hip circles. So all you're going to do is rock to the right and then over to the left and then back up. And if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm tipping the water over, that's okay. You can remove the imaginary water for this because obviously the back isn't going to stay still and straight enough for us to actually balance on it. It's just something to think about when you are in that neutral tabletop position. And moving the other direction. Really good. All right, coming back to neutral tabletop, and we're going to move through cat-cows here. So on an inhale, drop the belly, reach the hips and head, coming into cow pose. And then exhale, reverse that, arch your spine, coming into cat pose, thinking about like an angry Halloween cat, or making a C with your body. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Inhale, cow pose, drop the belly, reach the hips and head. Exhale, cat, arching the spine, rounding down. Really good. One more cow pose. And then exhale, cat pose. Great job. Coming back to neutral spine. And from here, we're going to come into sort of the quintessential pose of yoga, which is downward facing dog. So what I want you to do is spread all 10 of your fingers. So oftentimes people will go into downward facing dog like this. You actually want to be like this. And so this is going to help to actually put the weight into your hands, into your fingers, and take it off of your wrists. So spreading through your fingers, engaging through your hands, tucking your toes, and sending your hips high to the sky. So a couple things here. You want to be nice and long through your arms and nice and long through your legs. But what we don't want is to straighten our legs so much that we round through our spine like this. So what I want you to do is bend your knees a little bit and really send those hips up towards the ceiling. Great job. From here you can bend one knee and then the other, just going back and forth in the posture. And so downward facing dog should actually be a resting pose, but if you're like, oh my god, this is really intense, I totally get it, I've been there, it takes a lot of practice before it becomes a resting pose. Alright, take a deep inhale breath, and then on an exhale, we're going to bring the right foot in between our hands. So planting your foot down, dropping your back knee down, untucking your toes, and then bringing your hands to your knees. So coming into a low lunge. We're just going to stay and breathe here. So this is a really great foundation to build off of. We can come, tuck the toes, come into crescent from here. We can come into our warrior series. And we have lots of time to get there. We're just going to stay in this pose right here, right now. And if you're like, this is so simple, this is so basic, here's a couple things to think of. You want to have your knee over top of your ankle. And you want to tuck your pelvis in and under and engage your core. You want to have your back nice and long, but your shoulders down and back. And you want your gaze to be nice and long in front of you. So one of the Sanskrit words that you hear in a yoga class is drishti, and that just means your focal point. So along with your breath, you also want to come into that meditative state. So you always want to be gazing at something. So as you make those adjustments to your pose, find that drishti and come into your breath, and we'll stay for 2 more full inhales and exhales. Inhale all together. Exhale, bring your hands down towards the mat on either side of your foot. Tuck your back toe under, and we're going to step back to plank pose. So as you come into plank pose, nice long spine, nice and long from the crown of your head all the way to your heels, and then pushing through your shoulders so your back bubbles a little bit. Really good. Holding for 2 more breaths. All right, exhale, downward facing dog. Great job. So finding your pose, bending those knees, elongating through your spine, through your legs, engaging through your fingertips, and breathing here. All right, inhale deeply, and exhale, place the left foot in between your hands. Drop your back knee down, untuck your toes, hands to your knees. All right, making your adjustments in your pose, finding that drishti, and then breathing here. Great job. Really good. Inhale all together. Exhale, plant your hands on either side of your foot. Tuck your back toes under, and what we're going to do now is we're actually going to step our back foot to meet our right. So step. Bringing your feet about hips width distance here. Take an inhale, lengthen your spine, and then exhale, fold, grabbing onto opposite elbows. So bending your knees if you need to, and just rocking side to side. Shaking your head yes and no, and just releasing through your neck. So oftentimes we'll clench in the head and neck and jaw here, and we really want to release those muscles. So as you do that, don't let go of your breath. Continue to breathe deeply in and out. And if you found it hard to follow the breath, that's okay. It's a practice. It takes time to sort of get that. Sometimes I still find that I lose my breath, and I've been practicing for a lot of years now. All right, we're going to move through a couple of half sun salutations here. So releasing the elbows. Inhale to lengthen long spine. Exhale, fold. 2 more just like that. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. All right, inhale, lengthen 1 more time. And then as you exhale, plant your hands and step back to that plank pose. So coming into that plank pose, we'll take a deep inhale and exhale here. And then as you're ready, we're going to come down to the mat on your exhale. So hinge through your elbows and drop yourself all the way down. Untuck your toes, and we're going to come into a little back bend here called cobra pose. So what you're going to do is draw your shoulders down and back and reach your chest through your shoulders. Gaze is nice and long. Just come up a little bit. Inhale deeply here, and then exhale, release. We'll do that twice more. So inhale, coming up into your little cobra. Exhale down. 1 more. Inhale up. Exhale down. Really good. What we're going to do is we are going to push back to child's pose. So just pushing through your hands all the way back to child's pose. So big toes touch, knees are about as wide as your mat, and just allowing yourself to settle. Forehead is on the mat here, and you're really allowing your body to just sink into the ground. So don't feel like you have to hold onto your muscles or support yourself, just allow yourself to settle. Really good. Coming back to that breath if you lost it. So deep inhales and exhales, in and out of the nose. And I want you to take this moment just to observe how you feel. If you're like, this is easy, this is boring, this is hard, I don't know how I'm ever going to get good at this, just notice the stories that are happening in your head. There's no need to put judgment or weight on them. Just allow yourself to observe and be aware of what you're thinking and feeling. All right, take a deep inhale breath. As you exhale, coming up, coming to that neutral tabletop position. Sitting back onto your heels, swinging your legs around and coming into some seated work. So the first thing we're going to do is a pose called Janu Shirshasana. You've probably done something like this before in like gym class or something like that. But extend your right leg long, draw your left knee in towards your chest, and allow it to fall out towards the side with the bottom of your foot right against your inner thigh. We're going to inhale, reach the arms up towards the ceiling. Turn your torso so it's square over your leg, and then exhale, fold here. It's not about like reaching your toes or getting your head to your legs. It's just about finding somewhere where you feel a little bit of sensation through the back of your leg, and you can still keep your back relatively straight. So one of the things that a lot of people do when they're new to yoga is they touch their toes, but they round like this. We don't want to do this. We want to create a nice long spine and then fold. So make it more about the length in your spine than it is about actually touching your toes or getting your head to your knee or whatever you think you're supposed to do. Really good. Inhale deeply, and then exhale, coming back up to center. Release the left leg long. We're going to do a forward fold here called Paschimottanasana in Sanskrit. Inhale, lengthen, so nice long spine, arms towards the ceiling, and then exhale, fold. Again, creating that nice length in your spine. It's not like this. Long spine, fold forward. If you touch your toes, that's great. If you don't, that's totally great too. Knowing that this is a practice and your body's going to feel different from day to day as well. So one of the things that I love about practicing regularly is noticing where my tightnesses and tensions are each day, because it definitely moves and changes and shifts. It's not the same day to day. All right, inhale all together. Exhale, slowly coming back up. Now onto the other side of the Janu Shirshasana. So right leg in, allow it to fold out with the bottom of your foot right in towards your left thigh. Inhale, lengthen, square off your chest towards your legs, and then exhale, fold. Finding that drishti, that gaze, can be just down towards your foot, just somewhere where you're able to allow your focus to be light. Relax your eyes a little bit. Inhale slowly, making your way up. Exhale to release. Really good. We're going to come into Baddha Konasana, which is your traditional butterfly pose, which you've probably also done at some point in your life. So bottoms of the feet together, nice light grip on your ankles. Take an inhale to lengthen your spine, and then an exhale, folding forward. So again, it's not some sort of C-curve. It's that long spine and then folding from there. And so as you're probably noticing, I'm not getting that far here, and that's okay. So if you just go a little bit and you feel that sensation through the inner line of your legs, that's totally great. Yoga, despite what you might have seen in photos or magazines or on Instagram, is not about just like getting our foot behind our head and that sort of thing. There's a lot more to it. There's the anatomy component, the breath work, the meditation. There's so much that goes into it. And it's really about being gentle to our bodies. So one of the parts of the 8 limbs of yoga is ahimsa, which is nonviolence. And so I really want you to practice nonviolence towards yourself as you start this practice. So be kind to your body. Notice the sensations, notice the feelings, notice the tightnesses and tensions. Sensation is normal, but pain is not. So if you're ever in pain, make sure you come out, make sure you see a doctor if it's really bad. Don't force yourself into anything where you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna die here. That's not what yoga is about. So inhale deeply, and then exhale slowly coming out. We're going to do sort of a non-traditional yoga pose. I call it rock the baby, but it's just basically a hip opener. So you're going to take your right leg, bring it up, bend it towards you. If this is all you can get to, that's totally great. If you have more flexibility in your hips, you can bring your foot to the inner part of your elbow and then just wrap your arms around just like you were rocking a little baby, but it's your hip. And then just move side to side. And one of the reasons we're doing this is that if you don't practice yoga regularly or you're new to the practice, your hips are most likely pretty tight. Obviously, everyone is a little bit different, so this might be super easy to you and you might not feel that much sensation. But for most of us, we carry a lot of tightness and tension in our hips. And so this is just a really great way to begin opening them up. And it'll help us prepare for some of the harder hip openers, some of the harder poses that do require that hip flexibility. All right, as you're ready, we're going to switch to the left leg. Bring your foot up, wherever works for you, and then beginning to rock. And noticing from side to side how you feel. I think we often think like, oh, you know, my hips are tight or my hips are flexible, but you actually might just have one tight hip or one flexible hip or one flexible arm or one tight shoulder. So beginning to observe these little things in your body, because it's going to be different than mine, than anyone else's. So it's really up to you to kind of figure that stuff out. All right, as you're ready, letting that go. And we're gonna make our way onto our backs. So as you come onto your back, draw your knees in towards your chest and give yourself a squeeze here. And as you're ready, planting your feet down. Feet are as close as your sit bones as you can, and your feet are pointing straight forward in line with your hips. From here, you're going to reach your arms long by your sides, palms facing down. Take a deep inhale into your chest, and as you exhale, send your hips up towards the ceiling, coming into a little bridge pose. Remembering to breathe here and keeping your gaze long and steady up towards the ceiling. Inhale deeply. Exhale, slowly coming down one vertebrae at a time. Sit bones come down last. We're going to move through two more, so if you feel like, oh no, I didn't really get to get into the pose, we've got two more. So staying exactly where you are, all you're going to do is inhale. And then exhale, send your hips to the ceiling. Really good. Inhale deeply. Exhale, slowly lowering down, one vertebrae at a time. Inhale. Exhale, send your hips to the ceiling one last time here. Inhale deeply. Exhale, slowly lowering down towards the mat, one vertebrae at a time. Draw your knees in towards your chest, giving yourself a big squeeze. Reaching in between your knees, grabbing the outside knife edges of your feet, coming into a pose called Happy Baby. This is one of my favorite poses, even though it looks super, super weird. And while you're here, you want to think about grounding your tailbone down. So if your hips are tight, it might be a bit challenging to start with, but you really do want to have your entire spine down on the mat. Really good. And then as you're ready, slowly releasing. And we're going to come into a supine twist. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring our arms out towards a T here. We're going to draw the knees in towards the chest. And then as you exhale, allow your legs to fall over to the right. Your gaze can either be up towards the ceiling or over towards the left, just depending on how you feel. So maybe you try the gaze towards the left, see how it feels. If it doesn't feel so good on your head and neck, just keep your gaze up towards the ceiling. With this pose, it's important not to look around too much. Just because we are twisting into the spine, you do want to keep your spine as still as possible. All right, inhale deeply. Exhale, draw your knees back to center. Inhale here. And exhale over towards the left. So coming towards the twist on the other side. Once again, gazes up towards the ceiling or over towards your right fingertips. Taking deep inhale breaths, inhale and in and out, in and out. All right, inhale here. And exhale, slowly bring your knees back to center. Giving yourself one final squeeze here before heading into our final resting pose, Shavasana. And so Shavasana means corpse pose in Sanskrit, and this is a really important part of the practice to allow everything you've done to sink in. So feet are about hips width distance, and you just want them to fall out towards the sides. Arms are long by your sides, palms facing up to really relax through the shoulders. Shake your head yes and no, left and right, just really relaxing through the head and neck. Close your eyes and allow your eyes to be heavy. Allow your body to be supported by the weight of the floor. And just allow yourself to settle here for a couple of minutes. I'll call you back when we're ready. Enjoy your Shavasana. Wiggling fingers and toes. Taking deep breaths in and out of the body. Doing little wrist circles and ankle circles. And then as you're ready, rolling onto your side, coming into a fetal pose. Just allowing yourself to settle there for a couple of moments before we make our way back up to seated. Then as you're ready, keeping your eyes closed or your gaze soft, slowly meet me back in that seated pose that we started in. And as you arrive here, draw your hands towards your heart center, your hands in prayer pose, thumbs in towards your chest. Taking a moment to express gratitude that you showed up here today for this practice and that you gave this time just for yourself. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste. I hope you feel great after that practice. If you have any questions or comments, definitely let me know. If there's any poses that you'd like to work on as a beginner, you can definitely let me know. And down in the description for this, I'm going to drop a link for my beginner's yoga course. So if you feel like you want to dive a little bit deeper, there is a link with a promo code there so you can get it for super affordable. I really, really hope you decide to continue this yoga journey with me and do it for yourself, not for me. If you enjoyed this practice, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to get all the weekly practices, and I will see you next week. Bye.